So thank you so much for being with us today. I mean, I know that certainly three of you have been at Disney quite a while, haven't you? Because I know that that David, I know you were head of story, for example, on Strange World.
Yep.
And Jason, you were head of story on Encanto.
Yeah, I just celebrated 20 years at Disney, actually.
Wow,
Yeah.
20 years.
Yeah.
And Christina, you produced Oceania, which we had here, which was an incredible show on Disney Plus, and we had a great screening of that here. Dana, I know that you have come from, you have more, is there more of a live action background originally?
Yes, this is my first animated project. I was in TV for a long time and made the transition.
So how, because you've been working on the live action Moana, haven't you?
Yes, I
is
co-wrote
that how
that.
Is that how this kind of came about, or?
Yes, so I was hired to co-write the live action with Jared Bush, who I wrote this with, and we had a really good working relationship, and he was like, we're making this little Moana 2 thing over at Disney Animation, you want to come play? And I was like, I don't know what I'm getting myself into, so absolutely, I'll be there.
And this was originally, as I understand it, and correct me if I'm wrong, a project that was going to be a sort of like a Disney Plus project, and then at some point that changed. It's now become obviously a big theatrical outing, and with it, I guess the expectation increases as well. When did that happen, and how have things have ramped up since then?
Yeah, I mean, we work on these things for a long time, and we initially started 4 years ago during the pandemic, and so the world was different. And it was, really exciting. Like I worked on the first film, you worked on the first film. And so initially we were just thrilled to continue Moana's story and just carry it forward in whatever format. But as we started developing the story, it's something, as filmmakers, we like to say, you listen to the story and we'll kind of tell you what it wants. And it definitely wanted to be on the biggest screen. As we would screen it, for ourselves and our colleagues, it just became apparent that it was a big story and needed to be told on the big screen.
Yeah, we were telling like a long form story that had an overarching story. So there were some pieces of it that really did fit nicely, and then obviously it took a lot of work once we decided to make it a feature to really hone it and make it like a really finely tuned story. And we did learn a lot, but as these things change, it really became what it was supposed to be, and we were so excited to actually put all the amazing detail that you all just got to see up on screen, and for us that was really satisfying.
And Christina, I guess David just touched on the pandemic then. I guess because a lot of work during the pandemic period was done remotely, did that kind of play quite well into the fact this was being made in both Vancouver and Burbank?
Yeah, I think in general, the pandemic provided such a foundation for us to be able to work together equally across all different platforms. Mm-hmm. I think the great thing about being on Zoom is it kind of creates kind of a very democratic way of working together. And so we were so fortunate on this film to be able to work with, our brand new Vancouver studio, and a lot of folks on Burbank who were, like Dave and Jason said, worked on the first film too.
So you were working sort of having kind of Teams or Zoom or whatever, the kind of things, kind of like meetings with the guys in both places and showing rushes that way, or how did that kind of work?
Yeah, and I just want to shout out, you guys are seeing over 700 names of incredible artists and people committed to making this. Yeah, it's kind of special to have the names behind us. Like I kind of got chicken skin with that because there's, we were explaining to David Fane, who does the voice of Kele, our creative process. And, David was actually, he grew up in Samoa and then moved to Aotearoa. And both Dana and I have connections to Samoa. It's part of who we are. And we're explaining like how we make movies, and it's collaborative, it's all together, and all these different departments working, collaborating. And he just laughed and was like, that is the Fa'a Samoa way. It's all together or not at all. And I think, like you said, Christina, a lot of that, inherently started with things that we learned from the pandemic of how to work kind of equally together.
Yeah, the teams really came together, but we did travel up to Vancouver. We all went up there, and we would go have some meetings up there. So it was definitely a collaborative effort, and it felt like it was definitely one studio, two locations, and it all worked out. We needed every single person to work on this, so.
And as well as the trips to Vancouver you were making, was the opportunity to go and do proper kind of big research trips to go and visit the Pacific Islands as part of this process?
I think
Not this time.
I wish. I wish.
Unfortunately.
Because it started in the pandemic, we couldn't really travel and do those research trips.
Mm-hmm.
But there was a lot of Googling.
So were you able to draw on the stuff that had been researched for the first film as well then?
I don't know. Yes, but we also have this really incredible cultural trust for this film, which was started on the first film, but it has expanded to have a lot more people. So we have an entire team of experts in different fields, from botany to language to, Tatao, our tattoos, who come from all across the Pacific and really were part of our creative process. We got to consult with them, I mean, all the way through making toys and the popcorn buckets. Like, they've been with us this whole time. And what they add is invaluable, not just in that, I think sometimes when you're telling a story about a very specific place and culture, there's a tendency for storytellers to say, this is the story I want to tell, how can I just add a little cultural specificity on top of that? That wasn't our approach at all. It was more, how can we be in conversation with each other and build a story from the foundation that is true to this place, which is the Pacific. And so they were not just offering us their expertise, but inspiring along the way. So much of the what is in this film came from conversations we had with them as the story was changing and evolving. So it was a really invaluable experience.
And I will just to add on to that, like, there was no like official visits, but like Dana's been to Samoa many times, and I went to Samoa during production just with my family, because it's family for us and it's important. And if anyone liked the Mud Skippers, it was because one day my son was out playing on the beach and he just started screaming. It was just like, Dad, what are these? And he saw these little Mud Skippers just jumping up and down. And I think literally, like, I probably called you up and was like, we need Mud Skippers.
I do remember that.
And we have 27,000 in one shot in the film. It's the world record no one wanted. No one knew they needed.
Or maybe it's not wanted, but maybe you're right first time. And obviously you just touched us about the fact that the story was sort of inspired by the sort of Pacific Island communities, and that really comes across, I think, in this island where the different communities can meet and sort of share experiences and so forth, and that comes directly out of storytelling within those communities, doesn't it?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, the idea of connection is obviously so huge. You know, we always talk about and it's something that every single one of our consultants said to us is the ocean does not divide us, it connects us. And so we really wanted to tell a story about connection and why currently Moana and her island is disconnected. And so that was sort of the seed to we would ask questions about all of those things. But absolutely, that came from every one of our consultants. We talked a lot about all of that.
Can I say my thing?
What is
Yes.
it?
Okay.
Hold on.
So,
Settle
It's like
in,
a drinking
everyone.
game.
all right. I get so excited about this. I literally felt like Moana in the first film when she went into the cavern of the wayfinders and she saw who her people were, that they actually were able to navigate the entire Pacific Ocean. It was the people of the Pacific who found the last discoverable land. We'd love to give people credit for discovering islands where there were already people. And they were able to do it in the largest space on Earth. The Pacific Ocean is 1/3 of the Earth. And they were able to connect all these different islands of the sea through the art and spirituality and science of wayfinding. And that's what we celebrate in this film. But it's not just exclusive to Moana. As you saw at the very end, we see other wayfinders who are also searching for that connection. And very early on, Jason, you know, you would say that thing of like, the ocean connects us, and you'd say, to who? To who? And so to be able to answer that in the story
so
was so
satisfying.
important to all of us.
And I guess the ocean has a kind of character of its own in this film, as it did in the first film.
Yeah.
And you talk about it both being a device to sort of connect people and communities, but it also protects Moana. And I guess also just in animation terms, it's also one of the most difficult things. It's like the kind of holy grail in animation terms is animating water and the ocean. And the first film definitely went a long way to doing that, but you've taken it to another level again. I'm thinking about the opening scene when you're sort of sweeping through and you see the kind of the sort of scale of it all. I mean, that's quite an achievement to have pulled off, isn't it?
The third act is all on water.
Yeah.
Like once they're, and you saw it, once they're on that island and they take off, everything happens on the water, which I don't know if you know, but when we are creating the water, it's not just the waves and everything that are complicated. Every single thing that touches the water has to have a special simulation built around it. So every hand that goes in the water, every time the canoe touches the water, it's like it has to be custom done. And so to have the third act there where you're in this storm, there's giant waves, there's all this connection, there's that point you've seen now where everyone falls in the water. We had to have, I mean, I thought we were going to give our teams, like, they were either going to kill us or have heart attacks themselves. And, like, but what's so great about Disney animation is they are the people that in the first film created that water effect that has now become so iconic for Moana. And so they were up for the challenge. We were told there's no way we're gonna get all those people in the water because their hair has to be wet every time their hair interacts. It's so specific. But the people that we work with are so passionate about what they do and they care so deeply that, we'd come into work one day and they'd be like, I know we said that was impossible, but we did it anyway. And so I'm so grateful for them because I can't imagine what that third act would be like if we couldn't have put Moana in the water.
No, and Jason and I, we come from animation, we were Cal Arts students together, and so one of the earliest tests you do is usually a sack of flour.
Yeah.
And you try to put emotion into a sack of flour, because if the trick and beauty of animation is putting a soul into something that doesn't have a soul. And the fact that they do that with water and water droplets and a storm, it is so humbling to see. Anyway.
And when you see things like the beach, and it almost feels like every sand particle has been hand created. And you were just touching then about the hair. You see the tangles in Moana's hair. I mean, one time just actually having hair and that was. You could see the strands was one thing, but then actually tangling and having the effect of the water on it, and all of these things are massive challenges, aren't they?
Yeah, it's incredible. I think our tech anim team does a great job with acting with the hair, to your point, Maui's hair, Moana's hair is absolutely stunning.
It's a very artistic thing, like what you're saying, is to actually make that perfect, we always call it the Disney breeze, just the right moment, especially in a song. It's it's got just the right flow to it, and that includes all of their costumes and their dress. So it's an incredibly, and it's it's really it's controlled by people behind it to make it just right, and each one of these people cares deeply about it. And so if you add up all those things, one single shot, you can see the work of so many different people and the passion that comes through. It's pretty amazing, actually.
And I wonder if you can tell, so obviously the action of the film is 3 years after the first film. We've obviously come, I think, more 8 years since the original film. Can you tell us about some of the I guess the challenges and the sort of, how fun it might have been actually kind of revisiting those characters. How will they be 3 years on? How are they going to behave? How is Moana going to look differently? And then obviously you've got some of those sort of new characters coming in and starting from scratch as well.
Yeah, I mean, we wanted to tell a story that actually picked up from where we last left. I mean, so many people have watched the film so many times, and we are obviously huge fans of the first film. So one of our biggest things was we wanted to make sure that where Moana ended is where we don't want to repeat the same story. So she's become a leader in her community, so that immediately says she's out there looking for people, and she's on a new journey. And so we wanted to make sure that's where we were actually starting off. And you see that by this point, her island is thriving. She has a little sister now, and that's proof of the future is positive. But that's what's going to be at stake in this film, as you all just saw, is the future of her people.
It's so rare to see a Disney character age too on film that I thought it was such a cool exploration for you guys and all of us and our film and our artists too, to really see what it looks like. Moana a little bit older, you see Pua now who has a tiny little crest. And I think it's a really nice emblematic mirror to what the film is about, how it's really about people and how we are always constantly evolving. And so to be able to showcase that on screen was a fun challenge.
You're right. I guess in animation terms, often when you revisit characters, they just stay the same. So Mickey Mouse will always look like Mickey Mouse. The Simpsons, 35 years later. But it's still the same, incredibly. And talking about obviously the beloved characters of Hey Hey the chicken and Pua the pig, and they've got a much bigger platform this time around. There's a lot more comedy, I think, in the film this time around as well.
Hey has to share the screen a little bit more.
I mean, rightly so though. I mean, Pua's so freaking cute.
People wanted Pua.
I definitely wrote that hate mail from the first film.
They wrote actual letters asking for Pua.
Yeah, there was Team Pua for
even within the studio.
It
was controversial.
But it was intentional, I think. In crafting this as a feature, taking it from series to feature, of really looking at every character within our story, from our crew, even Pua, and looking at them as how can we tell a story of evolution, even if it's just in a small way. So it was really pointed to have every single character touching on that, and also finding ways, like we were saying, one of the biggest themes is this idea of connection. So what does disconnection mean? When you're disconnected from someone, how does that change who you are, the choices that you make? So that's why we have characters like Matangi, who are examples of she's been isolated for a long time. She's a little weird. She's been alone for 1,000 years. So anyways, all to play together, and I think it was really fun challenge to find a way for Pua to grow a little bit. And so Pua gets a little hero moment, which to me was really satisfying because he's not just along to have fun, but he's really a part of Moana's evolution as well.
I think he actually regrets going on for a
definitely
big portion of the journey, right? Because it's like, I want to go, and then actually seeing adventure in his face, it's
Be careful what you wish for.
Yeah.
Exactly.
And Alan Tudyk, the actor, is an actor who's voiced a lot of Disney characters over a number of years, and he's back with the I mean, it feels like it should be an Oscar-winning role, really, as Hey Hey the chicken.
That was the best 2 hours of my life.
Yeah, that recording is amazing.
Everyone was jealous of me because I got to
Very
do the
jealous.
recording with
I mean,
Alan.
I'm intrigued. How do you direct somebody playing a chicken?
Honestly,
He acts too with his hands.
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah.
Alan Tudyk is incredible. Just a very generous, kind person, and
does
such
great
a
chicken.
great. He gives great chicken.
too easily. Yeah.
But truly, like we had conversations, like so. Hey is really. He's a little afraid in this moment, or he feels a little in over his head in this moment, or there's a giant wave coming at him and he thinks he's gonna die. Like, and he would internalize that and give a different performance, and it was wonderful. I think at one point, there's the moment, his eyes come together, and I was like, he's sentient for the first. He knows what's happening for the first time ever, and Alan was like, I got you.
And were you for Dwayne Johnson and Auralie's performances? Were they recording together or were they separate?
No.
Separate.
They were separate.
Yeah.
That's interesting because you feel as if it's coming so kind of thick and fast. You feel as if they are absolutely together, don't you?
Yeah, and I mean, it's also typical of our process because we screen the film so many times and our actors are all in different locations. I think that's the beauty of animation is that it feels seamless because we always record first and then our animators work on top of it. And so we have hundreds of animators really making sure that Maui always feels like Maui and Moana always feels like Moana in every single shot.
And I think it's a testament to both of them that they are so deeply connected with the characters. Like one of the things that was so fun but also enlightening was when Auli'i or Dwayne walk into the booth, they are Moana and Maui, so
100%,
quickly.
yeah.
There's a sense memory to it, I think, because they've done it already, but also they're both characters that mean so much to them personally. Auli'i has grown up with Moana, truly.
Yeah.
She was 14 when she was first cast, and now she's 24. And so it's become a part of who she is. And for Dwayne, similarly, they're both Pacific Islanders. And so to be able to tell a story like this on such a large scale, it means something. It changes. I'm always talking about how Moana changes the way the world sees Pacific Islanders in a way, and I think that's something that they both take to heart.
And you introduced the character Simea for Moana's sister. How difficult was it to find somebody to voice that character? 'Cause that's quite a crucial role to fill as well, isn't it?
Yeah, it was tricky. She was a character that, very early on we chose and created to show the love that Moana now has for her community and why now leaving is more difficult. It was a relationship that I saw in my own life. I have a daughter, Simea, who's 21. And Quentin, who's 7, and despite their age
That's
gap,
a big difference.
yeah, and like I said, we started in the pandemic, and so they were just always together. He was sleeping in her bed, they were camping in the backyard, and then suddenly there was this day where she had to go to college. Mind you, it was UCLA, 20 minutes away, but for him, his world was coming down, and she came back, and he grabbed her, tears in his eyes. When are you going to live with me again forever? And it was that poignant moment where we knew that would never happen again. And it speaks to growth and the beauty and pain of love and the strength that comes from that. And so we love Simea and what she gives to Moana. And Khaleesi is incredible. Dana worked with her. You were amazing the way you worked with her.
Yeah, your camp counselor days. I mean, it was so much fun. I think the opening scene where Moana actually arrives and Simea just comes barreling through and she's like a bowling, like a bowling ball through a bowling pin, just knocking people over.
Yeah.
It just says so much about the relationship so quickly. And we had so much fun designing and just animating. All of those things was an absolute joy. I think it really is one of the relationships that's so winning from the first second you see it. So.
And one of the kind of animators who you have access to by working at the studio is the legendary Eric Goldberg,
Oh, yeah.
who has worked on, films going way, way back. and it's just like probably one of the kind of most incredible kind of living Disney animators, I guess you'd say. And he, as I understand it, worked on the sequences with the tattoos where you've got the sort of the hand, which I guess is very
Mini
difficult to
Maui.
do because you've got Maui having to, it's sort of CG, having to react to mini Maui who's hand drawn.
Yes.
How did that work, and how did Eric kind of come into it?
I mean, he established the workflow in the first film, and we were so
It's
excited
taken-
to carry it over again because it is like the perfect marriage of like the artistic heritage of Disney animation
Absolutely,
to have the hand drawn like with that, but like. I'll never forget the first day because I mean, again, we went to CalArts, we were animation geeks, and then just talking, not knowing what meeting was next, and like Eric Goldberg.
All of a sudden, Eric Goldberg's
is right
at the
here.
meetings, like full like revert to animation nerd like immediately happened.
Revert?
But, yeah. Well, come on, I'm way above that now. But no, it was incredible. It is like the greatest magic trick because there's so many different performances that are happening, and it is really a communication between the animators. There's a different animator that does the CG Maui and then the hand drawn, but it is it's incredible when it all comes together. It's one of my favorite things in the film is to actually see all those pieces working. We have some areas where Mini Maui has never been. He like pushes up Maui's sleeves at some point. So we had a lot of fun coming up with some new stuff for that as well.
And I'll say, add to that, in addition to working with Eric, Eric is really doing a fantastic job bringing up the next generation of 2D animators. So it was really special to get to work with these really young 2D animators that are honing the craft, and like knowing that this is artistic art form is still going to continue was really gratifying.
Absolutely, yeah.
And it's cool because like the CG animators, they always hope for one of those shots because it is like a unique collaboration where, like I like to say this all the time, but like in film especially and at Disney, we get to all work together to make something bigger than we could on our own, and that's one of those examples where like two different animators working together very differently to make something unique.
And I guess it's impossible to underestimate the kind of the power and the effect of the first film, not just in terms of having a kind of Polynesian sort of female hero, but also just in terms of the way that the sort of Pacific Islands were depicted and so forth. And I mean, you've just kind of just continued to take that forward. And but I guess that is a big thing when you're working on the second film, thinking about how important that is to those people and how they're being presented in the world. This is a global platform, isn't it?
I would say absolutely, but it's also deeply personal. I think one of the things that I'm proudest of is that I get to be a part of making key creative decisions in this because I am a Pacific Islander. These are my people.
Yeah.
At the end of the day, I want everyone in the world to love this film, but I still have to look my family in the face and know that I tried my best to do right by them. And it's a tremendous responsibility, but it's also been such a joy. I've been writing in Hollywood for almost 14 years, and I've never had the opportunity before Moana to tell a story like this about a Polynesian and a woman at that. There's really nothing else like it. I watched the first film as an audience member, and it changed the way I saw myself, and it changed the way people around me understood what it meant to be a Pacific Islander. There was, before that, only a couple of stereotypes that were known. We were either football players or we were wrestlers, but we weren't strong, independent young women who were empathetic and could save their people. And so it's a testament to what representation means on a much larger scale.
And before I open up and see if the audience has got some questions for you, I just wanted just to follow up on that. It's just to talk about the music as well, because you've got obviously the sort of the very contemporary voices of Barlow and Bear, with then these very authentic kind of Pacific Island sort of both the music and the singers, and then obviously your sort of the score as well.
Yeah.
And bringing that together to have that sort of authenticity and contemporary feel is quite a special thing to have pulled off.
It's incredible. Yeah, no, and you know what you're keying on for that unique sound that grounds you in kind of the spirituality and the culture, that is Opataya Hawaii and Te Waka. And he was with us on the first film. And the thing I love is on the second film, he's composed more songs. And there's, you know, that song at the very end, Mana Vavau, that just always brings me to tears. The collaboration between Mark Mancina, Opie, and Emily and Abigail, like, truly makes something unique.
Cut to the chase. I love that.
That's good. It shows us an appetite for it. That's good.
I love
You've just slogged your guts for years and years. Finally, we're here. It's Moana 2, everybody. But when is
I'll
Moana?
let Christina take that one.
That must mean that you love this film, so we're super excited for the question. I mean, we're just so happy right now to be talking about Moana 2, so we'll see about the future, who knows, but we're just so thrilled that you liked it enough to ask that.
We're gonna take a nap first.
Exactly.
I guess there's still a live action film to look forward to as well,
Yes,
isn't there?
2026.
26. So only, well, so I was going to say next year. It's not next year.
Yeah.
But it'll
I
be
will
next year
say,
soon.
I will say too, like, if you rewatch Moana 2, there are so many hidden details
Yeah,
to
that's
find.
true. That's true.
Our artists work in just layers, and it's astounding the details. So keep watching it.
Yeah, that's true, especially when you rewatch it. Watch that third song at the very end, Keep Your Eye on Pua. It's like my favorite song in the whole movie. Yeah.
I guess a lot of the parents in the audience are going to be preparing to watch it a lot. So that's good to know. And you've got other kind of Easter eggs in terms of like nods to other Disney films in there as well, or have you?
They're slight.
Yes, but there's really, I think, like one of you, it's hard to tell your work said, like, we are all super fans of the first film, so there's a lot of homages to the first film.
Yeah.
And sometimes it's like shot by shot specifically, or like little moments throughout. Gifts to the fans.
There we go. Which character would you be?
Kelly. I love him.
That was
the
immediate.
farmer.
Yeah.
I'm obsessed.
It's the grumpiness.
Yeah, it's his personality. I relate to.
I'm going to say Moni because I love Maui so much, so I could definitely get on board with that.
You can.
You know, I'd like to be a flying fox. Those bats look like they have fun.
Wow.
I mean, I would normally say Moni, but since Jason stole my answer, I'll say Pua. Like, I'm Team Pua all the way. I started writing the
That makes
mail.
more sense.
Yeah.
Yeah, how long did it take?
I have been working on Moana in some capacity for over 6.5 years.
Yeah. This movie took almost 4 years to make for just Moana 2, and then the first film, I think is long actually.
Yeah, I was on, I guess, 3
5
years.
years.
Actually.
I think I worked on the first one for about a year.
Yeah.
So.
And that's typical. Like, our
It is.
movies take a long time. Like, they usually take around 5 years because different from live action, we have to create everything. We have to create even like the bottoms of the chairs and like literally like you had mentioned like every single texture of the hair. So every single thing takes an incredible amount of time, and we're lucky to work with like the best artists in the world who put in that time and really focus on
you both worked on the first film, didn't you?
Yeah.
What, Did you work on particular sequences or characters? Can you remember? What was
No, I was on that one for the whole run of it, and I was a story. Both of us were story artists on that, so we draw it out. And I did How Far I'll Go. I did the I Am Moana. I did the sequence at the very end. I was on there a long time.
I did Sharkhead. That was
Well, that's a great moment.
yeah. No, it was an incredible project to work on. It was absolutely. I remember I wasn't actually working on it, and I was dying to work on it. And when I got a chance, I was so excited. And then that's where I met Dave, and that's where we started working together. It was an incredible film. This film in particular, it really starts off with a story with us all kicking around ideas, drawing stuff. Dana comes in, and she's an incredible storyteller. And so I think together, an animated film is always a mixture of both artistry, obviously visual imagery, but incredible story development from the writing and the song making standpoint. So it's this incredible collaboration across all of ours.
That's great.
Yes. And I will say that moment in particular was really inspired by our cultural consultants. Nainoa Thompson from the Polynesian Voyaging Society is a master wayfinder who is actually a wayfinder who navigates on the Hokulea in Hawaii. And we were so fortunate to have him as a consultant. And when we were talking about this storm and this idea of Moana and her crew going out into this storm, I really had no touch point as to what it would be like to be on a canoe with no way to get out of a storm. And so we asked him what his experience was in that. And he said, when you're in the midst of a storm, there's really nothing that you can do. It's one of those rare moments in life where you just have to kind of completely surrender to everything around you. You have to let go of everything that you know. You have to allow yourself to sort of be lost in this moment. And he said that getting lost is the pathway to magic, because it's the moment that you have to start thinking differently, and you have to find new ways to approach a problem in a situation, and that's when like great discoveries happen. And we were all like,
Yeah.
type it, get it out, we gotta.
It's an incredible moment.
It was
That's
like,
a great universal message, actually.
absolutely.
Yeah.
And to come from a master navigator who knows where they're at literally every moment by the stars or the sun or the, like, to hear him describe that was, it caught us by surprise, but we were so inspired by that.
Yeah, everyone should look up like the Polynesian Voyaging Society after this. They are so inspiring. Sorry.
No.
I went right into the mic for that too.
You did.
I love it. I drew that drawing. I remember
Did you?
that.
There's also, he's getting his leg like
Yeah. also
eaten
that.
by a mud. My favorite 3-second moment is there's a moment inside the clam where they found the ganglion and Lodo just leans in like this.
Oh, yeah, yeah, yeah.
And I don't know why it makes me laugh every time.
Oh, yeah. There's
Lodo's
another
got a few of
Lodo.
those
Yeah, Lodo has
off
a
of
few.
that
The butt
butt
dial.
dial.
Yeah, the butt
butt
dial
dial.
one's pretty
She
good.
just
She
like
looks at his-
looks behind
Yeah.
Maui like.
That was an animator who brought added that level of detail, and we were like, absolutely.
Yeah.
There's a really fun little hey hey dance that I really love in What Could Be Better Than
Yeah.
This.
Oh,
it's
yeah,
just like
yeah.
it Moana goes by in the background and it's really funny.
Can we, so we had the hey hey dance, so he's dancing, and then the animator, Tony Smead,
Yeah.
was doing Moana's part of it, where she's like dancing for the, right before as the song is going through, and she does the chicken dance.
Yeah.
And I never put it together, and then he goes, she does the chicken dance because then Hey Hey is
That's the-
trying to dance, and so he's doing a chicken dance, and it's like those little details that like speak to the collaboration. I was like, that's so dumb. That means it's staying. Of like all time.
Do you mean that's
of the
in
movie.
what the favourite song in this film?
In the movie.
Yeah, in this film, your favourite song.
It changes every day for me. I think Beyond. Beyond's such a great one.
Me too.
Yeah.
Can I get a Chihu for sure?
Oh, yeah, yeah.
And for me, I don't know. I get emotional when I hear the words in Samoan. Mana Vavau, the song with Maui.
But that's, I mean, that's just a lot of the fact you're all choosing different songs as well. It shows, I mean, it's testament to how good they are as well. 'Cause you've
The
heard-
album's incredible.
These are songs
Yeah.
you've heard a
It really
lot,
is.
aren't they, as
Yeah.
well?
And it's
And
available.
the soundtrack is out. Yeah. It is.
It is as of Friday.
Yeah,
Friday.
yeah.
Having our QVC moment.
I listened to it at the gym this morning.
Yeah, I listened to it on the flight over. It's amazing.
And is there any other merchandise to be bought for the project? I bet there's going to be a few
toys.
poors around, aren't
A
there?
lot.
Oh, yeah.
Great
Yeah,
question.
going back to the beginning, what was it about?
I was so
Moana.
excited. Working on the first film, for me, like Dana, being Samoan, I'd never had the opportunity to work on anything that was as personal as that. And I remember like even talking to some people who had even directed on the first film. They're like, well, what are you going to do? Like we really wrapped that movie up, and she arced and she became who she was. And for me, I was like, oh, I actually see it completely different. I see it as an origin story. And I see the entire Pacific as a huge canvas. We have so many stories to tell. And Moana has so much more to learn. A lot of people are young in this room, but you realize as you go through life that we're always evolving and changing, and there's more to learn. And so it really, those two questions, like what else does Moana have to learn? And the ocean is huge. Of course there's more to find.
Yeah, for me, I love these characters. I enjoyed spending time with them. They're fun, they're funny. We spend time with them all, and they're real to us, as real as anybody else. So I love these characters. So any chance to revisit and to be with them again, I absolutely.
And a really lovely touch having access to the grandmother again as well, bringing her back
Yeah.
in was a really beautifully thought out and worked really well, didn't it? Yeah.
That's a great question.
is the great challenge of our lives. Matangi has lived many lives. She's a really mercurial character, and I think there were moments where she leaned more towards villainy, but as we were really refining what we had done in the series and changing it into this film, we wanted to make sure every character was pressing up against Moana, creating an obstacle or opening a door in a way that was sending her down this path to further evolution. Matangi is the second demigod that Moana has ever encountered. So there was this idea of how does she help or hurt Moana, and then there's also this sense of she's a demigod who fills a very different energy space than Maui does. She's so different than him. So as we were thinking about all of that, we were trying to figure out if she was good or bad. And we kind of like this idea that she is mysterious and lives sort of in between, but it wasn't until we heard about that getting lost is the pathway to magic, that really just like clicked something for all of us of like this person who unexpectedly gives Moana a key to her journey that is going to pay off later. That became very important. But also, in creating Nalo, the storm, trying to figure out how Matangi plays into all of that, and the idea that Moana and Maui were not the only ones affected by Nalo felt very important. That Nalo was trying to disconnect the people of the ocean with this monster storm, but that he had also disconnected Matangi from the rest of her life too, felt like an area that we really wanted to live in. And also she needed to be fun. Like the thing that we really care so much about in this film is making sure that it is funny, that it does fill this sort of celebration of culture, but also brings a lot of joy. And to just have her be just a very straightforward villain didn't feel right for our story. I mean, as storytellers, I think we all like the idea that people and characters have layers and that none of us are any one thing at any given moment in time. And Matangi seems to be a great example of that.
Well, sadly, that is all we have time for, and we had wanted you to do your 7-minute chicken dance. So I'm sorry that you're not going to have
Jason
your
will
own
stay after and dance.
Is that right? Yeah. But the film is coming out on Friday, on the 29th of November. I just want to say a big thank you to the incomparably fantastic Amy Astley from Disney. I also want to thank Rebecca and Edie from Disney UK, who have been amazing to work with, and of course our incredible panel. Please welcoming say goodbye to Christina, Dana, Jason, and David. Thank you so much.
Thank you everyone for coming.